Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock Blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone, and we are talking about Babylon 5, Season 5, Episodes 3 and 4, The Paragon of Animals, and A View from the Gallery. So, Adam, why don't you give us your breakdown of events of the first episode, and we can get into discussion about it.
Sure. The key plot lines in this one are the attempt to get the non-aligned worlds to sign the Declaration of Principles of the new alliance. On top of that, there's also raider attacks going on, which a ranger, dying ranger, comes to Babylon 5 to warn them about. Lita has to get the information from reading his mind. Meanwhile, Garibaldi is trying to get the new telepaths on Babylon 5 to help him with his intelligence operations, which they are not very receptive to. So I think that covers the major plot lines. What did you think of this one? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and there's the Drazi thing, right? There's like a Drazi situation.
Yeah, that kind of comes out of that's who the Raiders are really working for. Yeah, that the Drazi are involved.
I mean, I thought this was a serviceable episode. It worked well. It's sort of a I would say sort of standard Babylon 5 stuff that I'm used to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
I had no objections to it. I don't think anything particularly stood out. I am enjoying sort of the groundwork they're laying for what I know is coming down the road. And so this feels like, again, like another sort of necessary episode, but one that held my interest and, that I had no objection to, but it's also, I think, a little early in the season to really expect things to sort of scintillate. So,
yeah, I found it a solid episode. I mean, it's the Drazi being behind the raids and everything was it was kind of one of those things where the conflict of trying to get everyone on board signing the Declaration of Principles was almost kind of an easy solution once it all kind of came out. It was like, oh, okay, well, they're going to kind of bring it up because the Drazi were the ones trying to encourage people not to, and they get caught red-handed with the raider attacks.
And I did enjoy watching the Drazi kind of squirm through this one.
Oh yeah,
it was a nice. I thought that was entertaining, and I liked the way that they connected that to the telepath thing. So it was enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came together, and we got to see more of Byron, and he brings Lita into his fold during this episode. He wins her over.
Well, and it's clear now he's almost more like a cult leader. It seems to me like he's got like a Charlie Manson thing, I think, going on potentially, like I know he's either Charlie Manson or he's Jesus, one of the two. But you know what I mean? He's that sort of figure where he is identifying the thing in Lita that is making her feel not accepted by society and not wanted, and he's demonstrating to her that she, sort of like showing her that she matters. And I think he does it by, with a simple please. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like there's something nefarious underneath all that. That's my sense, because I think just adding please doesn't make it any less of, using a person as a means to an end. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I'll go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, with season 5, one of the reasons people often cite as not liking it is they really don't like Byron. And for me, not liking Byron is an acceptable response to Byron. It's like, if you're like, yeah, I don't like this guy, it's like, I kind of get the feeling the show is deliberately making you wonder about this guy. So I don't know.
And I think too, I mean, when you say you don't like a character, that's different from saying I didn't enjoy the character, I suppose. So my sense on Byron is I'm enjoying Byron. I just don't trust him. And I'm very suspicious of all these things he's doing, but I'm interested in sort of puzzling through it and trying to figure out, okay, is he a bad guy? Is he just is he just doing to her what everybody else does, but now he's just adding please at the end of it? Is that is he just sort of figured out some trick to get people to, what I mean? So I don't know. I can see where maybe people again, he's very 90s, and so I appreciate that. He does feel like he's sort of like ripped right out of a White Wolf campaign, is sort of how I'm describing him. I don't think that's necessarily bad, though. I think that again, it was the show was made in the 90s, and that's the sort of thing that was, I don't know, it was in the air, so yeah. In hindsight, maybe a character like that quoting Hamlet's a little over the top, a little heavy-handed. The Hamlet quotes, the long hair, the outfit, the vague sort of, there's like something a little bit gothy or vampire-like about him. If you removed a couple of those elements, he might be more palatable to a modern audience. But I don't know. I think given what role he's fulfilling in this story, it's not such a bad thing.
No, it works for me. Like I said, I get it. I get why people at the time were reacting badly, because they're like, it felt a little more personal and close to home at the time to be annoyed by that kind of thing, I guess. But yeah, I think it's an effective character. He definitely gets a response out of people, and so yeah, I'm fine with that. And it's a pretty straightforward episode, I have to say. I'm trying to come up with deep insight on this one, but I'm like, no, it just kind of comes together.
Well, I think this is, obviously a pivotal point for Lita. It seems like, again, we know this is one of the, I really like this about this season. They showed us how the season ends. Like, they show us, like, they don't show us everything, but they show us enough that we sort of know where things are going, both in terms of the overall series and in terms of this season. And now I'm so curious to know how it all comes together, and that knowledge, they're able to use that knowledge to manipulate me as a viewer, so that I'm like, no, Lita, don't give in to this impulse. You could be the one shooting Garibaldi in a few weeks if you go down this road, because we know somebody's shooting him. So it's like
Breaking Bad like to do that. How season 2 you're getting all these shots of the swimming pool and stuff, and in the house. Like, how do we get there? How do we get there?
It's exactly like that. Because what I'm doing as I watch this season is I'm assessing every character and saying, okay, who is the most likely person to be shooting Garibaldi in that scene? Because that's the most important question to me, aside from the lingering questions I have about what goes on at the end of the season for that last episode. But to be honest, I'm even more interested in what's going on this season, I think, because I feel like I've got more information about the final episode than I do about the telepath conflict. So, but unless they should throw in some real curveballs in that that finale. So yeah, so I don't know. It was again a solid episode, but this was more about laying groundwork, I think, and and sometimes that's necessary, and so I feel like that's sort of what we had here.
Yeah, it's just a well done. It's a solid. It's nice just to have kind of a simple, solid Babylon 5 episode, because season 4 was great, but it was these huge kind of plot arcs, and it's like, okay, well, it's weird. Once again, it's something I've talked about earlier, is how season 5, you're back to the status quo, but the status quo is different. It's like, this is very much like a weekly Babylon 5 problem, but it's different because you're also building a nation at the same point. It's kind of it's a similar conflict to the kind of things you'd have when they were like writing the Constitution and stuff, and you'd have the arguments going on. So it's the same but different.
It's also interesting to see that they do seem to be making some mistakes along the way that could be problematic for them. Mm-hmm. Like the whole thing where, Garibaldi, he only just, got over really screwing everyone over with his personality rewrite thing. And now he's sort of in control of this powerful intelligence agency. and they are starting to get an ends justify the means thing. And so like when he's trying to recruit Lita, he is not. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, it should just be. I mean, obviously they want us as viewers to recognize something, so that's why it's so obvious to us and not obvious to the other characters. But they really need to be tending to their flock more. They have people that did a lot of, she did some pretty serious stuff for them, and so she should be getting, something more. She shouldn't just be left to sort of, wander Babylon 5 on her own, and then and then for him to just kind of, I don't know, like he could have preceded his request with a dinner. Do you know what I mean? Just something fairly simple. I don't know. So I feel like they're being a little bit. I don't know what the word would be. Just they're not thinking everything through when it comes to the personnel issues that might be emerging.
Yeah, well, it's like as far as Garibaldi's considered, with the scene with him and Lita, it's like he got Lita to do what he wanted. He won the scene. It's but it's like it went his way, but he didn't think like the 2 steps ahead to how does she feel about this and how easy is this going to make it for someone else to manipulate her down the line.
And this was the episode where Byron basically says, "Look, I know everything about you, Garibaldi. I know how you think. You're the kind of guy that plans out everything you say 100 times in your head, before you enter the room, and you come up with all of like your responses to every possible rebuttal." And so that when he said that, I never thought of Garibaldi like that, but that totally made sense for me.
Yeah, I really liked that too. That's a good point. He really, really had Garibaldi's number, and the fact that Garibaldi is so self-righteous about the idea that he might be being scanned by these guys while he's down there to ask them to scan people for him was. It was a very Garibaldi thing. It kind of revealed a lot of because Garibaldi can tend to be this really heavy-handed law enforcement person, but he's also very concerned about anything when it comes his way.
They're doing a good job of making it clear how weird the telepaths would be to regular people when they're sort of left to their own devices to communicate telepathically with each other, and how there's like this strange silence that permeates their area when people wander in. And
I was thinking about this last season when we did the last episode of last season, and you were talking about, well, are there no telepaths left, or is everyone a telepath? I was like, no, if everyone was a telepath, it would be different. It was because I was thinking of these episodes with Byron and what it looks like when you just have all telepaths left to their own devices. I was like, there'd be nobody talking.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, it works. Because I don't know. I mean, I haven't. They do it in a weird way though, because they can't just have silence forever. So you'll get just enough silence to know it's weird, and then something happens and somebody speaks. It's very well done, and I think they've done it a few times already. But I really started to kind of pick up on it this episode. And yeah, so I don't know any other. Again, this was a fairly straightforward episode, like you were saying. So I don't know. There was the whole declaration of principles and watching Jakar sort of, write and rewrite them, and that
was interesting. But I kind of wish they'd gotten a little more into what was in there. It's like because it's like. It's almost like kind of a MacGuffin in that, the changes at the very end, they have Jakar make a big change and make it better, but it's just kind of a plot beat. It's like, well, what was changed? What did people really object to? And I being just the geeky kind of historical person I kind of would have liked it if they went a little more into the nuts and bolts of it. But, hey, it's just that's the kind of episode it was.
And I guess that brings us to the next episode, A View from the Gallery, or as I would call it, Mac and Bo, or Bo and Mac. So I wasn't too keen on this episode when it first started. And I don't know if I was too keen by the end of it either. But I didn't. It wasn't bad. It just was. I don't know. It wasn't what I was looking for when I sat down to watch the show. Do you know what I mean? And so that was kind of They did some interesting things. Like if in isolation, it felt like there was some good writing in there. But the challenges for me were they presented me with two new characters who I suddenly had to care about, and I didn't really care about until like the very end, and I only really cared about one of them.
Which one?
I can't remember who was who. I think Bo is Bo the one that became the pilot in the
Yes.
Vision. So Bo, I thought was a little bit more, and I think you were supposed to like Bo more. And Mac kind of felt almost too much of a caricature of a working man type person. So he just kind of didn't, he was a little too, like it would have worked for a sketch on Saturday Night Live if you needed like a plumber or something. But
he's partly modeled on Harlan Ellison, I believe.
Is he? Okay, so
Harlan Ellison had the story credit on this one. This
okay.
was one Harlan Ellison.
Oh, really? That's okay. See,
yeah.
It's a good thing I didn't look at that because I think that would have dissuaded me from saying anything bad about the episode.
Yeah. Oh, and I think you're right. I agree with you. There is some good writing in this episode. I agree, but there's also a lot of really kind of ham-fisted writing at points where you're like, okay, you're kind of hitting it a little hard there. It's it's a very mixed episode.
Well,
I didn't mind watching. I didn't hate it, but
so yeah, what I didn't like was I didn't like that I had to suddenly invest myself in these two new characters, and I didn't really like viewing everything from that vantage point. I understood what they were trying to do, but it made it, number one, I wasn't sure how important this conflict that, like, there was like this raiding alien group that was very unclear who they were, and I didn't know if I needed to remember them. Did they even mention their names? Was it?
I think they did mention their names, but I don't know. I can't remember. I didn't care enough.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was important. I had trouble figuring out what was going on because they were focused on sort of fixing all the equipment as and then later on it kind of becomes a little more clear what's going on. But the only scene I really, huh?
It felt just having a sudden invasion like that. It was just during the time between when the fleet went off last week and this one. It felt really contrived. This fleet like showed up out of nowhere and attacked Babylon 5.
Yeah, and they were too successful at attacking Babylon 5. Like it just felt like this race they'd never heard of suddenly arrives, and Sheridan's like sending Delenn into a pod to escape. And I don't know if Babylon 5 falls that quickly, that easily, it doesn't seem like it's even worth, saving, So I don't know. That part, like I said, is either contrived or just didn't feel strong enough to me. And
it felt like even with the White Star fleet gone, it's like a fleet that was invading your sector of the galaxy and headed right for your capital. It seems like you should have been able to at least call in the Centauri or
Epsilon. Like, was it Epsilon 3? Right, that's the.
Epsilon 3 perhaps too. But I'm saying even without getting into Epsilon 3, I mean, it's like you've got somebody in the Alliance would have been able to like throw in. I guess the Drazi might not be too happy to send support this week, but other than that, I don't know. It just it felt very out of nowhere just because it needed to happen this week, as opposed to the way the battles on this show really have like a sense of realism to them. I just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, it was very sudden. It was a very sort of sudden intrusion into the story. I mean, again, I like some of the stuff. Like I did like I liked the scene with Shakar and Londo. But that's kind of almost a given anyways. I did think that particular scene was done well, but other than that, I didn't really like. I don't know. I didn't get the whole thing with sending Delenn on the pod, and then Delenn like convincing them not to send her on the pod, and
I didn't care about that.
Yeah, and then the hero, and there was a lot of meta stuff going on with like Lockley and like you're okay in my book, Lockley, and
I know.
And they're kind of like Mac and Bo were kind of stand-ins for viewers too, so there was sort of like they were talking about the rumors with Ivanova, and I don't know, it was just it wasn't my. It was definitely. I mean, I watched it. I didn't feel the need to stop watching it or anything like that. But I just wasn't as into this episode as the other episodes I've seen this season. And what I'm hoping is coming down the pike. Hopefully it won't be a bunch of Mac and Bo episodes.
That's all season 5 is the new Mac and Bo adventures. But yeah, I no, I mean one thing I'm curious about with Mac and Bo though is where this idea came from, which I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but it's noteworthy that there was a Hamlet quote last week and a Hamlet quote this week. And you also have Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which is the Tom Stoppard play, which is about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are two minor characters in Hamlet. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole play about them, that this other guy wrote, where you're seeing the whole story of Hamlet unfold from these two minor characters. That's okay. These two minor characters' perspectives. So I'm wondering, is the Hamlet thing and the whole Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead thing, is that deliberate, or is that just a coincidence? But
I think I don't know. I mean, I if it is, I don't really care. Like I don't.
It's clever, but it doesn't make it a better episode.
Yeah,
no.
That's. I mean, that's the kind of stuff about TV that annoys me. Like.
Yeah. I mean, well, if it's a clever idea and it was a great episode, it would just be kind of icing on the cake. But it's like. It's like, okay, you saw that movie too, but I agree completely. But it was just something I hadn't thought about before. It's something I was wandering through my mind, where I was like, kind of during a boring part of the episode. But yeah, the whole you're all right, Lockley thing. It's like when the 10th Doctor and Rose during the first episode of the 10th Doctor, and he does the sword fighting thing, and then he's talking to Rose, and he's like, "Oh, you buy I'm the Doctor now?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're totally the Doctor now." And gives it a thumbs up. It's like, it's kind of like the show going, "Yeah, you all like the new Doctor, don't you, people at home?"
Yeah. That was kind of how it felt for me with Lockley, and I thought that I guess to me it almost kind of deflates the most interesting thing about Lockley, which is we're using that we're distrustful of her and using that as fuel, and I felt like this is sort of them sort of trying to get us to go the other way, and I think it's way more interesting. I don't know, I would have made Lockley the villain of the whole season. That would have been my approach. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard in the episode, but I just didn't really enjoy this one.
It's like Lockley was competent throughout the whole episode and everything, but there's nothing in the episode that made me go, "Wow, Lockley's really won me over." And it's like there would need to be this moment where Lockley really was doing that, and it's like, I don't know. It didn't feel earned. I like Lockley as a character too, so it's not that I dislike her, but it just felt weird.
It's just Mac. It's not like, it's not like...
Yeah.
It's this guy I've never met who's like just showing up this episode, and like his vote of approval means like very little to me because I don't know who he is. And I did like the spoo in the what was it, the roast beef?
Salami sandwich with salami.
Yeah.
But that was a good moment.
Is spoo supposed to be like fluff? Is that what it is? Is it like marshmallow fluff or something?
I don't know. It's something that, like I said, the Centauri are talking about it all the time. But I don't know. It's. I mean, I think the guys that were playing Mac and Bo were doing a perfectly good job. But it just, there was just too much meta writing going on with them for me to really get on board with them completely.
Okay.
I don't know. Like you say, the scene with the Ivanova scene where, they're talking about that. That was another one that pulls you out and going, oh, they're talking about the whole problem with her leaving the show.
Yeah. And granted, meta stuff wasn't as... Like, now it's very common, so we pick up on it quickly. And back then, that might have genuinely flown over my head. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I might not have been looking for it so much. But so I might have I might be ruined by the years of TV that came after. But I just was not into this episode. And again, it might have been... I mean, if the whole show up to this point had been about Mac and Bo... this might have been a fine episode, but the fact that, because anytime you introduce new characters that I have to suddenly care about, that's really difficult. That's like a big hurdle for an ongoing long series, the 5th season in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's for me. I'm fine with that by itself, but it's like it's two new characters and all they're doing is commenting on the characters we know. It's just like it feels weird. It's like, yeah, I know all these characters and I'm seeing it through their eyes, but I already have opinions of these. I don't know. It's not like there was the show didn't have anything new to say from their perspective. It's like, yeah, Sheridan's a good heroic guy, and Delenn is this person who really cares about people, and it's like the things you were learning about the other characters were. It's like, yeah, we already know all this stuff. We're not learning anything new by seeing them.
The most interesting bits that I found in the episode were the stuff that Bo was picking up from his personality and the way that he interacted with folks and how he would kind of seem to get like nuggets of information from different areas of the ship. And so at one point he was commenting on they were watching the battle, and that was a cool scene because they're watching the battle and they're talking about the different color explosions of the ships. And the guy says, "Oh no, the red." I think he said the red ships are ours. Was that it?
That was it. Yeah, because it's oxygen.
Yeah. That was. I thought that was really an interesting detail. That was where they number one tell you how to spot the difference, but number two they explain why it was different. That I appreciated that, and it was simple. It wasn't like overly complicated. It's I believed that this guy got this information talking to one of the pilots. And I've met guys
that was a
like
good
him.
moment.
Do you know what I mean? Like guys who like they know about the world because they've sort of asked these questions of people when they have an opportunity. And so
well, actually that brings up another point. That was like something a maintenance guy learned from a fighter, and it's like it was new information we got, whereas most of what we saw was these guys learning about characters we already know. It's like if they'd been if we'd been kind of introduced to some level of the maintenance world that we kind of were like, oh, there's this whole other layer. Yeah. But it was like instead it's them watching the things we see every week.
We all know that Sheridan and Delenn are in love, and all they got that to is their discomfort at being in the presence of them kissing. So yeah, no,
I did kind of like that they did show Sheridan being a little more distant to them too. It's like Delenn at the end knows their names, and Sheridan just utterly doesn't remember them, which is completely consistent. I thought that was one good touch in this episode. I'll give it points for.
Well, I mean, I think they did a fine job. The characters, they all were the character. Do you know what I mean? Like Franklin was Franklin. Delenn was Delenn, Sheridan was Sheridan. I don't have a handle on Lockley yet, but I'm going to assume that's her general personality. And so I thought that and I think even Zach made an appearance, and some.
I don't remember Zach in this episode.
Yeah, he was in the hallway. He said, "What are you guys doing in here? Get out of here. We'll cover you." Wasn't that?
Oh Zach? Yeah. I think it was. Yeah.
And I did like the scene with the telepaths. Which. I do, like you said, people apparently don't like Byron, but I'm kind of enjoying the Byron scenes because he's a mystery. And
well, we don't know Byron, so having a scene with them interacting with Byron, it's like that's all new information. We haven't made up our mind about Byron, so that felt new.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because especially with what happened where he showed, I got to see something I hadn't seen anybody do before. Maybe I hadn't realized it, but I don't remember it occurring that way. Where well, I guess Lita showed Gina Davis, Lita Ford, that what she had seen. But this is the first time I saw somebody kind of get sent into another person's body like that. And that was an interesting gift to give that guy, because the guy genuinely, like, he had this dream of being a pilot or flying or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And the guy was like, well, is that real? Like, you really want to, like, is that really that important to you? And as soon as he started saying that, he had my attention right away. I was like, okay, what's going on here? Is he?
Well, it's the same question he asked Lita too. It's like, is this important to you? Does this mean something to you, or whatever the exact wording is? It was the same wording.
But there was an intensity this time. There was an intensity to it. That I felt. I was wondering what Byron. Like, is Byron going to kill this guy? Like, what's going on?
That you're right though. This was was probably the best interaction they had, and I like that. Bo was genuinely moved by it. It was like, afterwards he kind of thinks back to it later and stuff, and it's like, oh, it was a really cool thing he got to have. It was a nice moment that added to that character.
But yeah, but I don't know. I didn't enjoy this episode as much as the others. And again, I think it's really good. I don't know if did they put the writer's name at the start of the episode and I just haven't been paying attention, or is it?
Well, I mean, the writer's name is always there. I don't know because this was a story credit. It was like story by Harlan Ellison and Jake Maxter. I'm pretty sure it was before the episode.
Okay. But I think it's good I didn't see that because I think that would have definitely colored. I would have felt like I gotta like this episode. You know what I mean?
Harlan Ellison was involved. Yeah.
So
I know. But yeah, I made sure not to mention it to you ahead of time. But yeah, I don't know. It's not a disastrously bad episode, but it's just if you're gonna do an episode from a new perspective, you've gotta do more with that new perspective.
well,
That's all.
and the other issue too is like at this point, episodes are sort of precious because there's only so many left.
Yeah,
And so when
yeah,
I get a bad episode like that, I sort of feel like, oh man, like that's like a waste of like one of the last episodes I'm going to see the show. So part of that is
yeah,
partly what's also sort of motivating my stronger reaction to that one, which was just sort of like,
yeah.
couldn't I have gotten this episode in season 2? Did I need to get it now?
Well, I would have felt like this episode would have worked better. It's like having a mysterious attack on Babylon 5 and everything, and the characters would have been newer to us too. So seeing the
Yeah.
characters interacting in a different context, yeah, I mean that's actually something I've always thought. This should have been a season 1 or 2 story. It's like it would have worked a lot better there
Yeah.
because it feels weird to have that at the end. I mean, but that is a difference between us though, is that I've already seen the entire series, so it's like the first time you watch a show is when you really feel that pang when you're getting near the end because there are, I've already exhausted all the fresh episodes of the show. I'm on a rewatch, so I don't have that sensation, but I know what you're talking about. It is really frustrating first time on a show, and you're like, they wasted this one.
And then, I
But
mean, and that is, a that is a big difference. I don't know how I'm going to react the second time I watch all these shows. So yeah, I could
you
have.
probably won't love it.
Well, no, no, I have a feeling this episode my opinion won't change much. But I mean, my overall reaction, especially with the earlier seasons, I really wonder how I'm going to be looking at those in light of what I know about later seasons. So
Yeah, like I said,
uh,
I think you'll like. I mean, yeah, the earlier seasons I think you'll like more on the whole because yeah, when you know the whole context, you see so much more.
hmm.
There's a lot to pick up on, but yeah, it's not a highlight of the season, but there's still good stuff to come.
I also feel like I don't know if this is, and this has nothing to do with this episode. It's more the previous one, but I feel like, um, uh, what's the woman who plays Lita Alexander? Is it Patricia
Tallman,
Tallman?
yeah,
I feel like her acting has improved this season.
yeah,
Like I feel
yeah.
like there's a noticeable difference in how she's portraying the character. That feels like um, I don't know. I mean, the character worked fine before, but it really feels like it's working more in this season to me. Um,
I agree. I think because I mean people acting is a skill, and the more practice and stuff you get in it, or I mean you can get rusty at it too,
hmm.
like any other skill, and it feels like she really is hitting her stride with this character at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, and I would imagine it takes time to sort of get to know a character too. And I guess with her character, she has sort of the disadvantage of she was in the first season and then I
Hmm.
don't know. She was in the prequel, right? She was just in the prequel, not the prequel, the
The
pilot.
pilot, the
And then
pilot,
she didn't show up for ages, and then she returns, and so
yeah.
uh,
And she had like a baby and everything during that time, so it's like
yeah.
she was taking a break
But
from acting for a while too. So
mm.
it wasn't like she was doing acting elsewhere. So
but then she also has this thing where like because if I think about it, like all these other characters had time to grow. Like Garibaldi's character has some growing pains.
yeah,
Um, you know, Sheridan is sort of. I feel like Sheridan was a character they kind of established really well when he came in. Franklin had some growing pains. I think even Ivanova, and so you know, all of the Lita growing pains were like mid-season on. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of
yeah.
like But yeah, I think like now she's real. Like the character is really starting to sort of take a strong shape, and it seems like that's crucial because obviously her character is going to be important to the storyline. So I'm assuming, given what the you know, I could be wrong. Maybe the telepaths are not even connected to the I know there's a terrorist incident and Garibaldi gets shot, and telepaths were a bad idea. So between those things, I'm making some assumptions. But
sure, but yeah, it's I mean that's the thing. I mean, it is the thing with the show. It's like even with the episodes you don't enjoy that much, there's still a lot to take away. It's like there's a lot of you can't. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse because you can't really skip episodes. You can't go, oh, skip that episode. It's not worth it. You still got to watch the lesser episodes just to pick up what's good in them.
And this episode, I wasn't so thrilled with it. The previous one was fine. I was just hoping that the one that followed it was going to be a little more interesting, I thought, because we had a lot of building and, so, we'll see what comes down the pike. I'm enjoying the season. This one last episode we saw notwithstanding. And I'm optimistic about what's coming down the pike. So, so we'll see what happens. And I am happy to see sort of I think it's good to get more of the Lita character and the telepaths and stuff like that. That stuff I'm enjoying, and as much as I can sort of see missteps occurring as a result of the path Garibaldi is going on, I'm enjoying the path they have him on. So
yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the whole nation building aspect of the season so far. It's an interesting thing to watch.
But yeah, so I guess we'll we only did 2 episodes today. We'll probably be back to our regular 3 episode overviews when we get back to Babylon 5 in the week. Which I'm assuming will be Wednesday or something. And,
I should be able to do 3 by Wednesday, I think.
So we're gonna get on more of these episodes. And just a reminder, it goes fast. Like we're only on episode 5 or something right now, but it starts flying by once you get up into the 10s and 12s, and then before you know it, the season is over. So So we will be back on. We're going to be on tomorrow with a special talk on sort of. Rob ran his version of authentic medieval gaming, and we're going to talk about that. We did a live stream, so those who haven't seen it, they can check it out on. I guess I'll post a link in the description below. There's we have a YouTube channel set up for it, and so that'll be tomorrow, and then next Friday we're going to finish our Brave Archer discussions, and from there, I'm sure we got plenty of things lined up. So, all right, we will be back on, and we will talk to you later.